to the breakfast show here on Faith FM. We had spoken about the story of how Jacob stole his older brother Esau's blessings and how that actually relates to how God treats us.
I never really
It's
had
a
that parallel.
little
It's
parable.
beautiful.
If you missed that one up, that's fine. You can still catch it up later through the podcast of this program. And coming up, we're going to be talking about Rachel's going to tell us the story about someone who won the award of Volunteer of the Year. And that someone is not a human person.
Oh, you gave it away already.
I'm giving it partially away. But if you want to find out what it was, who was it that won, you have to stay tuned because Shell's going to tell us all about it. I'm going to be talking about the new proposed hate speech reforms that are being proposed by New South Wales Premier Chris Minns, and particularly targeting places of worship. And we're going to be looking at that, and we see if there's reason to worry or not to worry, if there's anything related to Bible prophecy or not. We're going to be looking into that. And, of course, our interview later today, Rochelle, is going to be with our friend Rod Bailey. He is building with us here, live on the show, the ultimate guide for buying a property or moving to the country. I don't think that has anyone in the world, in the internet, has ever given so much detailed, amazing information for free, just like here at Faith FM. So you have to stay tuned, and we have the entire series available to you as well, so you can listen to through our Faith FM website, faithfm.com.au. You can go there, you can look for the Breakfast Show podcast, and you'll find Rod's presentations there. All right, let's go into the next new quiz question. So, Letitia, do you have a quiz question for us?
I do. I have another one for you. And this one, it's a bit of a longer one. Along with his unbated vigor, which of Moses' senses never grew weak during his life? Along with his unbated vigor, which of Moses' senses never grew weak during his life? If you think you know the answer, text us on 0491 064 669.
Very good. Do you know the answer to that
I
one?
didn't, but I saw yours, so now I'd be cheating if I wrote it.
How did you see mine on the reflection?
You just flicked it too far around.
Okay, there you go.
I won't cheat. I didn't know. I wasn't
okay.
sure.
Yeah. This passage speaks a lot to me, but I'll tell you why later. But so if you do know which one of Moses' senses did not grow weak towards the end of his life, according to the Bible, 0491 064 669. Speaking of things not growing weak as the years go by, one of the things that do not grow weak as the time goes by is Shell's ability to find amazing gifts to give. And you can be the recipient of one of these gifts. How? Well, if you were born in January, Shell has a very much prepared a special surprise to you. She has created a list. Imagine, people, when it's your birthday, they usually just give you a random gift. Here on Faith FM, we actually give you a list of amazing gifts, and you can choose from that list. Ranging from, so if your love language is experiences, you can try to book in a dinner with a Faith FM host. If your thing is the cold hard cash, we have vouchers that we can give to you. If you're more into a more tangible gift, we have an incredible leather-bound Bible that you can take anywhere with you. So instead of doom scrolling your phone, you can just be doom turning the pages of your Bible and learning something.
I saw a meme of
actually important to your life.
If we used our Bibles like our phones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I actually take that as a very, very serious challenge to my own life. Every time that I'm doom scrolling or I catch myself doom scrolling, because it's like an addiction, right? Say, okay, if I'm doom scrolling means that I actually need to be using my finger to do something else. Meaning turning the pages of my physical Bible. Because even, I think that the Bible in my phone sometimes can be distracting. So if you would like to get one of these gifts, 0491 064 669, let us know when your birthday is, but only if you were born in January.
I'm next month.
You're next month, you're February.
Yeah.
Very good.
Best month of the year.
So, Shells.
Yes.
Tell me, who won the award of Best Volunteer of the Year?
So it's the Mary Potter Award for Volunteer of the Year. Now, in people who win these type of awards in previous years are people who they might work with drug and alcohol abuse. They might work, there's those sex trafficking groups that fight sex trafficking. You might be I don't know, maybe like someone who does amazing work as a surface person. Well, in 2025, at the end of 2025, the person, wait, not person, the animal that was crowned for the Mary Potter Award for Volunteer of the Year goes to none other than Hefner the alpaca.
Hefner the alpaca.
Alpaca.
How did an alpaca win the title of Volunteer of the Year that normally is given to human beings? Tell me.
So Hefner is a very calm alpaca. Which
is very unusual because alpacas can be very territorial and even aggressive.
Yeah, so his owner
Towards
says
outsiders,
that when he got him, he seemed lovely and he needed someone for the girls in his field. And he had a good spirit, so he grabbed him. But he was just so much more calm, like unusually calm for an alpaca than any of the others. Even though he had had some good temperament alpacas, Hefner just had a really unusually calm spirit. So he just became, over time, it took years, but over time he ended up starting to take him to nursing homes, and now he goes to nursing homes and schools, community events, and get this, little famous Hefner actually managed to meet the King of England.
Really?
Yes. But
Amazing.
you know what's even funnier?
No.
He sneezed on the King of England. Lucky he didn't spit. He didn't spit. His owner said that would be a whole different story because that's just means he's not happy at all.
Yeah.
But he accidentally sneezed on the king.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
Amazing.
So they're in the crowd and the king's going by and meeting everyone and he meets Hefner and achoo! There goes the alpaca sneezing on the king.
Right.
So he's famous for that now.
Okay. Wow. I'm wondering, like, what would be the work to remove that sneeze from King Charles's, tuxedo or his suit? Because he,
It would have
they wear
ruined
very, very fine clothing. It would be pretty, hopefully they didn't get stained for good. Or maybe hopefully they did, so...
Well, he'll always
Hefner
remember.
Hefner would make his appearance.
So he's become quite famous, and obviously that would have upped the amount people knew him. And he goes to these nursing homes, schools, and community events all the time. Palliative care, everything. In most cases, like 99%, the people there absolutely love him. Like, he makes such a difference. A lot of these elderly, they're people that can't leave their room. They're people that, are attended in their room and can't actually really get out. And so it brightens their day. It is funny. There is an odd person every now and then, and they showed it in the video that every now and then an elderly person will be upset or annoyed or be like, no, get away. And I can kind of empathize a little bit because I do love animals, but I can be allergic to them. And so sometimes
But aren't alpacas like hypoallergenic? I thought that they were.
I don't know. I've never tried with an alpaca. They're
because there's some animals that are just have like very, very, very tiny, very low allergenic.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe sometimes people are scared of alpacas.
Yeah.
They look like a giant dog or maybe a miniature horse, whichever way you look at it. So sometimes there's very odd feedback where people can be a little bit scared. But overall, absolutely well received. And Hefner is just making a great difference amongst people. So much so that he received the Mary Potter Award for Volunteer of the Year. I just think that's absolutely awesome.
I love it.
He actually does another thing.
And it's very cute. I'm seeing photos here of Hefner the alpaca. By the way, if you'd like to get the photos, just text me here. We can send it to you. He is one extremely cute alpaca.
He's shaved like he reminds me of a poodle. You know how with poodles they shave them and then they have the fluffy head and the fluffy feet?
Yeah.
That's what Hefner's like. I love it. And like they dress him up at Christmas time and you can get photos with him and it just brings such a spirit of joy. I just can't believe how calm he is.
He's so calm and good on him because him being such a good boy, that means that he can travel everywhere. He gets to see the world where other alpacas, they're stuck to their property.
He's got his own little miniature horse trailer, but it's an alpaca trailer where he gets traveled around. And I just think it's amazing. I don't know about you. Like we've had different animals over the times, and every now and then one of them will just have a certain character that just stands out. Like we had a bunny rabbit that just was like no other rabbit. Like he just had this way about him of communicating to us in his little different ways. Like he was able to really be clear with what he wanted and didn't want and when he liked things. And
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
he was just a really funny little rabbit who he really attached to my daughter whose rabbit it was. But he absolutely liked his freedom. So, yeah, it's funny how animals, I don't know, have you ever had one that just has a quirky, something about it, endearing personality?
Yeah, it's really amazing to get to know an animal so well that you start like really reading how they communicate and really understand, because they communicate so much, particularly through non-verbal cues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is amazing.
Do you know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to swim with dolphins. Dolphins are meant to be amazing, smart creatures.
Yes.
I think it'd be amazing in the
it would have
wild
been
to
amazing.
swim with them.
Yeah. I never did it myself, but I would love it. It would be quite the experience.
It's probably not great for the dolphin, but I love watching, and I don't know if I'd do it because I don't know if they like it or not, but where they do the foot push and like they're pushing you through the water. I've seen it on videos. It looks amazing. But dolphins look amazing.
Look, it reminds me, I think there's a Bible application there in the Hefner story.
Okay.
Because I think that in the same way, if we, like Hefner, also learn how to develop a quiet, meek spirit ourselves, God is going to be able to take us places. God is going to be able to use us in ways that we couldn't even dream of when he knows that we can be trusted with a quiet spirit. There is this advice, it's an advice particularly for wives, for women in the Bible, but I think it does apply across the board. And God says that it is quite an impressive thing when the Bible says,
meek and quiet
when a woman can have a
have
quiet
that.
and meek spirit. Well,
I've never had that.
it's available.
But he still
You just
uses
have to
me and
ask.
loves me.
Yeah, of course he does.
We're not all going to be precisely that, but God does say it is of
I don't
high
know.
value.
I think
can grow
look, I
into
think
it.
that all of us have access to all of the fruits of the Spirit.
Absolutely.
I cannot say, oh yeah, look, patience is the one of the fruit of the Spirit, but I don't have that, or God is not. I don't believe that. To be honest, I think that hey, if there's that fruit of the Spirit that we're not
can ask
having,
for it.
we can ask for it. Hey, God, can you please give it to me? And you know what? He will give.
He will, because that's
Yeah.
why he named me Rochelle
That's right.
over Julie.
You
Because I will have a quiet lamb in me somewhere.
very good. So amazing how Hefner was able to pull that through. And I think
Yeah,
that-
what a cool little llama.
That's
but
right.
It
So-
is true. Like God, you having that spirit, he was able to go into situations that none of the other animals
That's right.
could.
God can trust us with situations that
Yeah.
He knows, because sometimes how we respond to things is actually more important than the thing that we are going through. How do we, even with parenting, with children, how you respond to the kids' misbehavior is more important than the act of obedience or the behavior itself. It's
The journey or the relationship is more than the destination.
Yeah, 100%.
Kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
And it's now the time to give an answer to the quiz question. So, producer Tish, do you have a new quiz question for us?
We have our answer first. Oh, only? We only have our answer.
Oh, that's right. So
We
now it's
only
time just
have
for
an
the
answer to
answer.
you
That's
right
right. A new question will come up later in the show. So please just answer.
Our question was, along with his unbated vigor, which of Moses' senses never grew weak during his life? And the answer was, in fact, sight. And that can be seen in Deuteronomy 34, verse 7.
Yeah. So Moses was like 120 years old, and his eyesight did not grow dim.
It's pretty amazing.
It's quite amazing.
I can feel differences in my eyesight, and I'm definitely not 120 years old.
Yeah, amazing. Very good. Now, I want to talk to you about a press conference that Premier Chris Minns had yesterday. And Chris Minns is the Premier of New South Wales. And he announced some, the intention of some new hate speech reforms that aims to empower local councils and to give them stronger powers to crack down on illegal premises used for quote-unquote hate preaching. In particular, unauthorized prayer halls and places of worship operating without proper planning or approval. So if you're a place of worship, if you're an official place of worship, you need to have an approval. If you don't have that approval and you are preaching hate speech, what the councils can do from now on, they can cut off utilities, all the premises, so they can, shut down the power, cut the water to non-compliant venues. If they don't make their situation, bring it up to compliancy, they can be fined in up to $220,000. So it used to be $110,000. Now it has been double that. And the intention of these reforms is to target the so-called factories of hate. Factories of hate are venues where preachers operate behind closed doors. Hate preachers where they are preaching, particularly racial hatred. Now, all of these laws, they have a one specific center, which they call like a prayer house, and one very specific preacher in mind. This is the Al Madina Dawah Center in Canterbury, Bankstown, which was linked to the now infamous Islamic preacher Wissam Haddad. He was the guy who, in his preachings, he had a very, very aggressive narrative towards Jews. So, for example, he was filmed preaching. He was quoting one of the hadiths. Hadiths are like the oral tradition, the tradition outside of the Quran about the things that the Prophet Muhammad had said or done. And one of these hadiths that he preached it's talking about the end of times. It's talking about times when Muslims would fight with the Jews, and the quote said, "Oh Muslim, oh believer, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him." And these are the trees saying that. So like the trees giving away the position of the Jews and asking them, "Hey, come and kill this Jew behind me." So he said a number of really outrageous things. He mentioned that Jews were descendants of apes and pigs, and that they love, there's like a lot of conspiracy theories against Jews as well. And he called them all kinds of names. And the novelty of that, like he got sued. He was being persecuted for religious intolerance and I do not know exactly what are the legal types but he was being persecuted for his hate speech. But the novelty is one of the Bondi shooters, Naveed Akram, he has been, sources are saying that he was connected to that particular center. So it's not that they're just staying on the hateful words, but now it's producing fruits, meaning terrorists are coming out of that group that are connected. And, Wissam Haddad, his actual name is Abu Osaid. He was asked by the press, "Hey, do you know this person? Have you met this person?" And he kind of dodged his answer out, and he didn't say, "No, I don't know." He just said, "Hey, there's no evidence linking what he done with what I have said," or something like that. But he never denied having met him. Or he also on social media, when he was asked, "Hey, do you condemn the killing of the Jews?" he stood silent about it. He didn't say anything. So so a lot of people are looking at his reactions and his responses to the questions being asked, and they're saying, these answers are really not satisfactory.
Yeah, wow.
So the thing is, the Al Madina Dawah Center, from what the media has been reporting, it is not authorized to be operating as a house of prayer. It has been operating like that, but it has only license. It has recently gotten a license to serve as a hospital, but not as a place of worship.
Okay.
So with all of that, I think that it's all good and well. But this is the thing, right? Hate speech. The big question about hate speech is this. Are we talking about hate speech? Are we defining hate speech against people preaching destruction and violence against any other human being or people group? If that's the case, if it was clearly defined as that, sign me in. I'm all for it. The problem with hate speech is that it can be very subjective. What is hate speech? So, for example, if one preacher says that God loves all people, but God does not approve the behavior of all people, can that be classified as hate speech? Well, certainly a lot of people have tried to do this.
Yeah.
Particularly in cases where some preachers in the past mentioned that God was, according to the Bible, disapproves of, certain sexual behaviors and lifestyles. Well, this can be focused. This is hate speech. This is hate speech. So depending on how broad hate speech is defined, that means that can just an ordinary church that is preaching something that someone in power does not like to hear, can that be classified and labeled as hate speech? And therefore, there is already all the legal apparatus to fine substantially these churches, these places of worship, or these mosques, or these synagogues, and shut them down. What about people's individual houses? You know, if I am having a prayer meeting in my house, or if someone is having a prayer meeting in their house, and something is said there that is being interpreted as a hate speech, even though it's not advocating for violence against anyone, does that warrant then the local councils to fine these individuals? We don't know. The thing is, we don't know. It's not being we would only know when it's tested. So laws, they can start with a really good intent, and they can have a clear target. As it's the case in that case, it's a target. It's a specific Islamic center in Sydney with a specific, extremely controversial preacher. But then you never know who's in power and how are they going to interpret these laws, because sometimes they can be so vague that the mechanisms are there. And we have seen that in the past in other countries, in other places, in other cultures, where these types of laws are used to discriminate against Christians, for example.
Yeah, I'm trying to process, okay, where's the balance? Is any amount of a hate law, like you said, doesn't have to be extremely explicit. Like then I think of places like North Korea that, it has been taken to the point and abused to where, Christians, because it doesn't adhere to what their master, which is Kim Jong-un, it doesn't align with worshipping him as God. And so then if, neighbours would tell on neighbours and then they're taken in the middle of the night or at any point of the day and, to hard labour camps and maybe never seen again. It's like, where does our line of hate speech, where is that line of, okay, we shouldn't have behaviour like we had.
That's right. And look, and this is the thing as well. When it's becoming very trendy for lawmakers to target platforms and to find platforms for what users are saying. This is, for example, what caused Facebook to censor a lot of people, for example, during the COVID era or even beyond. They're saying, hey,
misinformation.
because these businesses they don't want to be fined, and the government is confident that hey, they are going to be exerting the influence to stop certain kinds of discourses and speeches and so on. My question is, don't we already have enough laws in place that if someone, for example, like this preacher, says something hateful, let's say, he's making comments that are instilling hatred against the Jews or against, Christians or against, or Christians, instilling hate against Muslims, whatever it is, or atheists against whatever, it doesn't really matter. Don't we already have laws, for example, that would be able to bring the responsibility to these individuals? So why now are we expanding that so that we can close these facilities down? I think that this is a law that, hey, if it's just going to be used as it is being said it's going to be used, that's fine. If it's really to tackle racial hatred, absolutely fine. However, we have to look, because there's always a fine line. When the structure is there, can it be used in the future to be abused and to bring about persecution? Well, the reason that I'm saying this is that the book of Revelation clearly says that in the end of times, the people of God who are keeping the commandments of God and preaching about the commandments of God, they are going to be persecuted.
Yeah.
They are going to be labeled as hate speech. They are going to be blamed for whatever problem is in the world. So the book of Revelation points to a time where speaking the truth or preaching the truth as it is in the Bible will be considered to be a hate speech. And that's why I think that we as Christians should be more sensitive than anyone, saying, hey, is that the solution? Is that having laws that penalize people's speech? Okay, today hate speech is racial discrimination, which is good and fine. We have to persecute and not allow racial hatred to spread. I'm absolutely for that. But at the same time, where do we draw the line in the law so that it's not broad enough, so that if I start preaching something from the Bible that goes against a certain political preference, for example, can this be considered hate speech as well? What about you, radio friend? What do you think? Do you think it's right or do you think it's wrong that now places of worship are going to be, they can be hunted down depending on what's being said inside of them?
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
We are now going to be interviewing Rod Bailey. Rod is our country guy expert. He's a country living expert. He is a professional farmer as well. And he's been giving us a very comprehensive guide on how to move to the country so that if you or your family are contemplating moving to the country or perhaps retiring the country, purchasing a property in the country, there's a lot of things to consider. It's not a trivial thing. And the better prepared you are, the better are your chances to really enjoy this decision. So, Rod, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Joseph.
It's great to have you here. My friend, Happy New Year to you. How was the new year in your property? Did you stay put? Did you stay at home or did you go somewhere? Tell us a little bit about what happened to you.
Yeah, market gardening isn't a business that you can walk away from for any period of time. And this spring and summer have been very dry here, which is a blessing in so many ways, but it also means that we need to be on ground every day to irrigate our plants.
Yes. Rod, do we have you? So we're just having some technical problems here. We're just going to try to reconnect Rod. Rod, can you hear us? We're just trying to see if we can get the connection with Rod re-established here with us. He was just saying how where he is in the mid-north coast of New South Wales, there is a little bit of, it was quite a dry summer. But so he, as a farmer, as a market farmer, he needs to stay put. He needs to stay back. He needs to look after the plants. Let's see here if we got Rod back again. Producer Shell, any word on Rod? Well, we're seeing if we can restart the connection here. In the meantime, I'm actually going to ask the ladies if they can play the next song. We have Glimmer of Hope, and this is a beautiful song, and we will play it now until we reconnect with Rod.
I've been searching and I've been seeking. It seems like you're nowhere to be found, and I'd do anything just to see you. If I close my eyes, will I see you now? 'Cause I know faith hopes in what can't be seen, but my hope feels like a distant dream. Give me a glimmer of hope again. Save me from all my wandering. If I've been looking in all the wrong places, would you turn me back around again? You reach out as I lean backward, too scared to face my unbelief. If what you say you really mean it, restore my first love again. 'Cause I know love awakens love as I behold you. So turn my eyes to see you now. Give me a glimmer of hope again. Save me from all my wandering. If I've been looking in all
That was Glimmer of Hope. And I believe that we have reestablished our connection with Rod. Rod, are you here with us?
I am. Apologies for that. Not sure what happened. One of the vagaries of living in the country, maybe.
Maybe. So, Rod, tell us a little bit. So you were telling that, look, as a market gardener, you have a big responsibility there because people can't go without food during the holidays. So you had to stay back here to look after your produce, particularly during the dry weather.
Yeah, that's right. Summer's our busiest time, and especially when it's dry, we need to keep up with the irrigation. And the opportunity for us to take a break comes in wintertime, with everything's going so slower, and the climate's so much more conducive to plants looking after themselves.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, Rod, last time we were starting to talk about some of the fixed factors of the property, the things that you cannot change. So you're talking about location, aspect, topography, size, zoning, etc. Where do we continue from that conversation? Because that was a very interesting one.
Yeah, so far we've looked at the factors like the climate, that goes along with the general geographical area, the water that's available, which is so important for agriculture and life in general, the location, how far it is to town, the convenience of it. We talked about the aspect. And this concept of topography is really important. Topography just really means that the lay of the land. And in many ways, the lay of the land determines the potential. If a property is very, very steep, it means the access is difficult. It means, agriculture is a challenge. Walking up and down hills sometimes becomes a challenge. So there's a gradient from very steep country all the way through gentle slopes, gentle grades, through to perfectly flat country sort of thing. And so there's a practical aspect. Is the topography of the land going to suit what I want to do on the land? And secondly, there's a personal preference. A bunch of our kids, we've got 6 kids, and every time we go out west or out into the desert of Central Australia, the kids are going, "Oh, we love this flat country." Yeah. Whereas I'm a forest sort of a person, and I love seeing undulating country. And if we're choosing somewhere to live permanently, maybe that's something that's really important for us to consider.
Absolutely. Yeah, these are some really, really good points here to consider. Me too. I do enjoy mountains and hill country, but at the same time, as you mentioned, agriculture can be a pretty big challenge if you don't have a nice flat area.
It's true. And then there's other aspects like is the country a swamp? Is it just so low-lying and flat that a lot of the country is covered by water a lot of the time? Or is it a river flat, which is beautiful for agriculture most often, but also could be susceptible to flooding during high rainfall events? And then there's aspects like lowland around swamps can often mean lots of mosquitoes or fog or mist hanging around a lot of the time, or maybe the cold air from the surrounding country is going to flow into it, so it stays cold, particularly for a long time on winter mornings. And whereas elevated land, you can get up out of the mist. Into the air, you can catch the breezes better, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of things to consider there.
Okay, no, that's good to know. And look, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I remember one time, just looking at the market, seeing what kind of properties were there, and some of these, flat plains that were bordering rivers. I noticed that they had a very attractive price. But then asking why is the question? So, because you're going to get floodings every year from that river.
Yeah, I once looked at a 100-acre property, and 2 acres of it wasn't flood prone.
Wow!
So 2% of the 2% of the property wasn't going to be flooded every year, every 2 or 3 years. So, that may be okay for your purpose. Maybe you only need 2 acres for a house and a little bit of a garden and orchard for your family. But it's really something worth considering.
Absolutely. All right. So where do we go next?
So size, you can't really change the size of a property. And so we really need to work out the sort of lifestyle we're wanting to live, to work out how much land we want, and also what we might need. We all need, if we're moving to the country, we don't want our gutters of our houses to be touching the neighbours sort of thing. So we're looking when we go to the country for space and for freedom. Maybe we don't even want to see our neighbour's house. Maybe we don't want to hear their loud music on a Friday night or hear their kids riding their mini bikes around. We're all got different needs. But so in a sense, we want a property as big as we can possibly afford, because obviously size of property usually, to some degree at least, determines the value or the cost of the property. But we've got to remember that more land means more problems, in the sense we're responsible for our land, okay? And the larger the land that we have, unless it's just bush, which can, look after itself. It's been doing it for thousands of years. But we've just got to remember that the larger the property, the more responsibility we have. If we've got 2 acres, that's a very small boundary perimeter fence that we need to maintain. But if we've got 200 acres, that's vastly more length of fence that we need to maintain. If the house is, if the property is 100 acres and the house is, 40 metres from the road, that's a relatively short driveway that we need to maintain. But if it's 2 kilometres from the road, that's a very long driveway we need to maintain. So my gut feeling is, when we're coming to choosing a property, we need to work out what we want and what we need, and not just go crazy on thinking, let's buy 1,000 acres, when 20 acres might suit us better and save us a lot of heartache down the track.
Yes, no, I hear you. That's a really good requirement. It's about trying to find that sweet spot, isn't it? When it comes to really, really big properties, and one thing that I think about is mowing the lawns. How do people do it? Like, do you have to buy one of these, massive ride-on mowers? People are using robot mowers, or if you threw in a couple of sheep and some grazing animals, they will take care of that for you.
Yeah, look, it completely is determined by your context. As Australians, we love a big lawn. We really do. We've got this love for grass and lawn, and we want to get out there and play cricket or football or whatever on our lawn, sort of thing. But you're right, the bigger the lawn, the more expensive the machine you need to maintain it, and the more time you need. And some people love sitting on a lawnmower if they've got the privilege of sitting on one, and maybe they're willing to put half a day a week into during summer. Well, here in summer when the grass is really growing. But you've got your hand mowers, your push mowers, you've got your self-driving mowers, you've got your ride-on mowers, your zero turns, then you get to little tractors with mower decks, and then you have larger tractors with slashers or mulchers on the back, sort of thing. But it's the same principle, Joseph. You're exactly right. The bigger the lawn, the more effort you've got to maintain. And with regards to using animals, perfect. You probably don't want them immediately around your house, because domestic animals, they come to think in some way that they're human, whether they're sheep or calves or goats. They want to be living with you. They'll be on your veranda and in the house if you've got the door open. So you need fencing to keep them out. But like that zone that's not immediately around your house, you could definitely have grazing animals. Once again, you've got fencing you need to manage there. Sometimes in some locations, their manure can attract flies, so maybe the fly population will be larger than you like because you've got animals close, but that's definitely an option. Yeah. And
what about zoning? Because I remember seeing another property not far from where I was, and it was like a beautiful property. It was perfect, it was flat. But then they said this could only be used as a hobby farm. You could not live there.
Right, okay.
So what's the zoning story?
This is something that is very difficult to change. Zoning just means, each local council or local government determines what each piece of land is allowed to be used for. And, so in our valley here, we've got rural prime agriculture, we've got rural second class, we've got rural third class. And but the thing you're interested in mostly there in your question is what's called housing entitlement. And this is the most important thing to ask a real estate agent when you're looking at rural property that doesn't already have a house on it. And sometimes, even if it does, you must ask the question, does this property have a housing entitlement? Okay, because there's a lot of rural land, you can use it for all sorts of things, but you're not allowed legally to build a dwelling upon it. Mm-hmm. And so some houses in rural country areas have been built without a housing entitlement. That means there's no legal standing for that house to be there, and you are at risk of council finding out about it and coming along and saying, you know what, this house isn't allowed to be here, sort of thing. And so therefore the value of your asset and your opportunity to live there crashes and burns like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very, very important question. If you're looking at rural property and it's suspiciously cheap, that may be the reason why. Some people I know are taking the risk of buying properties without housing entitlements and building houses, or continuing to live in existing houses that don't have housing entitlement, but it is a great risk.
But in these properties, for example, are you? Is it more like you cannot build a house with foundations and everything? But for example, if a person has a caravan, they want to bring their caravan and live there. Is that something that they could do in these arrangements? Or
in most states and in most local government areas, there's a time restriction on how much you're allowed to dwell there. Like in I think the legislation's still the same. In New South Wales, where we are, you're allowed to live in a caravan or a tiny home or something like that on a property without a housing entitlement for a maximum of 2 nights per week.
Okay.
I think it is. So this is what they're generously allowing. Okay, this can be a weekender. You can go and camp there on weekends, but you can't live there permanently. Mm-hmm. But this does change from state to state, and it does change from local government area to local government area. So that's a vital question to ask. Am I allowed to live here temporarily without a dwelling entitlement? What are the restrictions? Yeah, and a lot of people take no notice of the restrictions, and they just go and do what they want to do anyway. And that's their choice. But once again, it's a risk you take.
It's a risk that you're taking. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Rod, we have about a minute left in this segment for today. We've been talking about zoning. We have been talking about the topography of the land as being very, very important aspects to consider. What is some of your final words, and where are you going to take us next?
Okay. One thing I want to say about zoning is it's very important to get the council document that determines what your zone is, because it has prohibited uses listed and allowable uses with council approval. Okay. And so if you're thinking of doing a business or having cabins or, whatever else, it's really important you look at the restrictions in that zoning document. Very, very important. I can't emphasize it enough.
Right.
And so the next thing we want to talk about is the soil, vegetation, the wildlife that might be there that can be a pro or con, historic use of the property, what it's been used for before, and if that'll affect your planned life and things like that. So we'll just continue on these list of things that we can't change about a property that's so important for us to be aware of before we make a decision to purchase it.
Can't wait for that one. Rod Bailey, thank you so much for joining us today and for helping us to complete our guide on how to move to the country, the things to consider, and to explore that lifestyle, which has so many amazing benefits. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to talk to you again next time.
Thanks for being a part of the Faith FM family. Join our community on Facebook or get in touch at 1-800-FAITH-FM.